We most recently, in this past year, have started considering the reorganization and structure, and this is to make up for the top 3 tiers of the department. Up under each one of the categories, just kind of give you an idea of what each different division, some of the main functions. This is not to be all inclusive, but just to kind of give an idea of some of the things. So the next form is we just wanted to talk a little bit about the accomplishments that we've been able to do this year and ending up in June. And so in alignment with the mayor's 4 pillars, One Safe City, we completed the design for Fire Station 3026. And by the end of this fiscal year, in June, we'll have Zone 4 Police Precinct completed. And that's part of the MAF program moving forward. What we've also done this year as One Safe City is to complete the construction of Fire Station 36 and Fire Station 37, EMS 37. City built for the future, construction completed, Eternal Flames, MLK mural, renovations, Office of Revenue, Department of DOP Phase 1, HR, DPW, Command Center. EBI Phase 3 has been completed, and we're moving forward into the next couple of phases in that project. Also this year, we've been in progress on the EV charging program. The difference with this particular function this year is that we've actually started to install the chargers in several locations versus just the infrastructure. Effective and ethical government, implemented the new enterprise asset management system, which includes Maximo, EBI as part of that. And so we'll continue with that program, but the difference now is that we're going to be opening the system up to the city citywide. We completed the parking study development, and right now we're working with the consultant, developing recommendations with project budget. So we're going to be ranking the options so that we have an opportunity to present to the team. Implemented the year-end maintenance program. This is something that we tried for the first time. Basically, that's when we were able to shut down City Hall for a couple of weeks throughout at the end of the year. This allowed us to really be able to dig down a little bit deeper, be able to shut down equipment that would otherwise impact the operations on a day-to-day basis, give us an opportunity to really go in there and do some real deep maintenance pieces. And we found that to be real successful. So moving forward, we'll have a program very similar to this year where we'll be looking for a time period where we can do some really detailed scheduled downtime, which will allow us to be able to have a higher run rate throughout the season. City of Opportunities for All. We've also generated approximately $4.5 million net operating income, and this is really from our leasing opportunities that the city has with different properties. And working with ATL DOT, approximately 253 parcels right-of-way projects is underway as well. Looking ahead for FY25, One Safe City, so we will complete the construction of Fire Station 22. We will complete the renovation work at Fire Station 4. The upgrades, security system at public safety complexes, public safety headquarters, Department of Correction, municipal courts, public safety annex. City built for the future, complete diversion center construction, DOP Phase 2, finance restack Phase 1. Complete EBI Phase 4 installation, continue to support the solar system initiatives for sustainability, build new warehouse facility at 1270 West Marietta Street. Effective and ethical government, expansion of the access management system, we'll be completing the 143 Alabama street sale. We'll continue with our digitizing all city-owned property documents, continue support of ADOT right-of-way abandonment, and City for Future implementing the parking study recommendations. Next slide. As we referenced earlier with the reorg that Dean is going through, we've been working with HR and identified 15 critical positions that we will implement in FY25. And then we'll phase in the remaining piece of this here. This is part of the facility assessment that we did. And there's kind of two things that kind of generate those type of issues with the structure. One is resources that deals with the finances portion of it, and the other is resources that deal with personnel. And so by beginning to start increasing those numbers, we can have a better impact upon the backlog and the facility assessment program that we have. Year-over-year budget trend, we can see that there has been a difference in our budget from FY24 to FY25, and I'll kind of explain to you on the next sheet what's generating that. So if we go to the budget, proposed budget for year-over-year for FY25, you can see that the biggest increase is due to contractor services. The security contract is back in deemed. The increase in janitorial, HVAC, elevated contracts, we've seen an increase in this over the past year, so there's been an increase moving forward on that budget. Assets management system, the license requirement is maintained to update the system. Supplies, we basically for the utility, been an increase on our utility rates, particularly on the power as well as on the gas, et cetera. And so you can kind of see through the numbers here that that's kind of where we got some additional generations coming from the personnel side, as well as with some of the supplies and capital outlays. So at this point, we have any questions that you guys may have. We're open for questions.
Thank you. And we've been joined by Andrea Boone and Jason Winston. Well, yeah, I'll start with kind of the obvious opening question, which is, please give us a little background into the 55.
Okay, so as mentioned, so this is part of the reorg and restructuring. So we went back and looked at the facility assessment piece and start to see what's going to be an opportunity for us to be able to impact and have and be able to bring those numbers in fruition. We realized that the numbers to deal with the backlog is about $45 million in that range. We're not going to be able to do that and add that to any particular budget. So we have to approach this in a way that's going to be sustainable for us. And so that's where some of the pieces that's being generated. For example, right now our HVC team exists of two staff members for the number of facilities that we maintain. Same thing with our facility for electrical services. I got one electrician that's on board. So it's those type of critical positions that we're trying to go back and address to make sure that we have an opportunity to be able to service the city in that manner.
All right, now it's going to take you a while to hire all those people, right?
Correct.
I guess that leads me to a related question, which is overtime is anticipated to drop from 203,000 to 3,000. That
it's going up.
Oh, it's going up. All right, it's too dark a highlight. Right. Council President Shipman has joined us. So, as you might know, based on an audit of the curb market financials, there was a lot that wasn't operating properly there for a long period of time. And council took a keen interest in doing what it could to get that straightened out. Board has been reconstituted, an executive director has been hired, who's been very forthcoming in describing all of the challenges to us. And then I come to find out that DEEM has never managed or supported the curb market. Why would that be, do you know?
So,
and shouldn't it be? Because I'm pretty sure that's going to be an ask of council.
Okay. understand. So we'll address that piece. I think one of the things is that it's an interpretation of the lease, and based upon our reading and understanding of the lease is that the facility was supposed to be self-maintained by the individuals that was operating the facility.
I mean, there's no capital budget, no maintenance budget. The place is falling apart. I'm sure that's not a surprise to you.
Right.
And it does operate on a subsidy basis.
Correct.
Is a historic and one might even say iconic property. And I think council's on record as wanting to see it get back on its feet. And it's not going to be able to do that with the hand-to-mouth arrangements that are in-house now. So I look forward to sitting down with you as we work through this budget to see ways in which you might be able to support that facility.
I mean, we're looking forward to that. I think the opportunity, there would be some chances there. We have tried to support them from time to time, probably not to the level that they may seek at this point, but look forward to having that conversation.
Thank you. Mr. Wan, then Mr. Hillis.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your presentation. So if I kind of take the first thing that I was looking for was thinking about when I looked at your FY25 budget was trying to understand capacity as in light of specifically the capital projects, the New Atlanta, moving Atlanta forward. I feel like we've got to, in the next 2 years, really start accelerating the delivery of those. I know that a lot of that is in transportation. I know a lot of that is in Parks and Rec, but some of it is in your shop as well. And I guess I'm having a little, it's not clear to me necessarily as I look at your FY25 look ahead, how would I be able to tell the narrative around, yes, because we are increasing staff, yes, because of if you look at the capital budget outlays for DEEM, that there is a very intentional strategy to begin delivering the projects that are in your house for those two. There are going to be a lot of eyes on us, I think, the next 2 years. And quite frankly, the Move Atlanta Forward bond holders are going to be looking for progress as well. So what can you tell me about that, or how might I be able to lift that from what you presented?
So good question. I mean, so we kind of touched upon the MAF a little bit just with the projects that we have in progress. So our program consists of roughly about 12 different pieces that add up to around $120 million.
How much?
About $120 million.
$120 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the fire station 30 and 26, they are in procurement phase right now, which means that they're in permitting. We have with the contractor who's actually pricing them out. We anticipate those coming out of permitting sometime, hopefully, for early part of summer, and we are able to start construction. Zone 4 is kind of in the same category. So we'll be going into deeper into procurement the first part of this summer. So around June is when we're anticipating that, and expecting to get that turnaround, and we actually be able to start construction on Zone 4. So those will be 3 out of the 5 major projects that we'll have under construction that's starting this year. The challenge with part of it with the fire stations, because we're rebuilding on the existing sites, is that the fire department has to relocate. So with Fire Station 30 and 26, they're on the opposite ends, and so they can move and they can have those relocation pieces without impacting their serviceability. Once we kind of complete that, then we can move in and do the additional fire station. Now, 31 will kick off before 25 because 31 is, again, a standalone. And so 31 is next in alignment, and so that'll be followed up. So from that perspective, we're tracking really well upon that piece. That's why the large project that we have that's went through legislation was to be able to give us the capacity to be able to take on those multiple projects at the same time. E911 is another piece, and so we actually have a plan, and we're moving forward upon that piece as well. So we've done a preliminary program and assessment and a preliminary design layout, and so we're getting ready to engage in the second phase of that to complete that piece and then start to engaging with the contractor as well. So those programs and part of our MAF update that we'll provide, we'll go, and that'll be all into more detail, but we do have the ability to be able to address those issues.
you feel like the proposed headcount and staffing structure, where the vacancies are notwithstanding, but the 96 number is appropriate to really accelerate
Yes.
or deliver on that?
So it's a couple of ways. So some of that also includes some PMs that we also need internally to
Right.
deal with some of our restocking. And we also have some PMs that we'll be able to use for the MAF, but we're utilizing our consultant contract to be able to actually bring on PMs that we can actually pay for directly through the MAF. So we have a plan in place to be able to address those issues.
Good. No, I really appreciate your leaning into the contract management side of it as well, because I think to the extent that we need to augment what we're doing, creative, it's not creative, but just be realistic about how we deploy resources to execute projects. I'm really glad to hear that. This is a finance question. I'm not sure if Shook is bothering them or not. But in terms of...
Yeah, he's talking
Okay,
about that.
all right. I have a finance question related to where I was going with this. In terms of where we would point constituents to be able to show them our intent with infrastructure project delivery, that would be in the capital projects and budget, right?
That's correct. Capital section of the budget.
You broke up on me there.
The capital section of the budget book?
Yeah. So the 120 million, for example, that he just mentioned in terms of projects they intend to deploy, that's where we could say there's how we're going to be delivering on the bond projects that we promised y'all.
Yeah. And any other capital project.
Okay. The last thing I'll say in closing is just, y'all have kind of one of the toughest roles, because not only are we are pushing on these new projects and this new construction, you're also having to address a very old asset inventory in terms of buildings. I worry more about the equipment. You mentioned HVAC, we've got boilers, we've got all sorts of old things that are probably well past their useful life and their original age that we should be. So, we look to y'all. I know that there was an assessment done in the last 12 to 18 months about specifically that. And I hope that, I'm just saying, we're going to look to y'all to be able to let us know, even above the creative bond financing that we're doing, what sort of capital outlays we really are going to do in the next 3 to 5 years. It's always cheaper to repair and sometimes even replace than it is to address when things crash and the damage that in addition to the replacement cost.
The point well taken there, that's one of the things. And so we kind of have an internal model that we do is see something, hear something, do something. So the intent there is that we're really trying to be more focused upon those pieces, like we talked about the end of the year maintenance program. To your point, I can control the cost a lot better when I have scheduled maintenance,
right? Scheduled
downtime that has less impact to the operation of the facility. I don't know if you guys noticed, but probably a month or so ago in the FEC Committee Room 1, at times when I'm in there presenting, it's hard to hear because the air handling unit was saying some things, and what it was saying is that I need some help. And so the team actually went in there and they identified that the bearing was going bad. So we scheduled downtime, got a contractor set up, and we was able to schedule time to go in and replace that bearing without having any impact to what was going on in the operation. So those are some of the things that we're trying to focus upon, to where, to your point, that because when you have downtime and when things just crash on you, your cost is different. Right. And so we're looking at a couple of different ways to try to do that. And to your point, we're trying to become more focused upon those things and more specifics. And so that's where the personnel and the staffing kind of come into place to kind of assist in those areas.
Yeah, and an observation though. I think there is definitely appetite with me. I'll just speak for myself in terms of the creative financing that we've done with bonds or facilities, because I do think that sort of funding source matches really well the repair and replacement strategy especially with our aging assets. So we just need direction from y'all. We need y'all to raise your hand and go, hey, we've got this inventory of things. The first year, the plan is going to be $50 million. And I have faith in our finance department to be able to find whatever funding vehicle best matches that. But yeah, I appreciate your attention to it because we just need to keep up. So.
Finance will tell you, I'm not afraid to ask for some money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner, for the presentation and your team. One thing I wanted to touch on, which we've talked about before and I've brought up many times, is MAF programs, especially on our new fire stations. Prime example is Station 22 because of other issues, but it seems that our costs are getting way out of hand. Other municipalities, counties around us in the metro area are building same or even better fire stations for $6, $7, $8 million. We are budgeting $12 million for these new stations. Who's going to end up well above that, given the challenges there? And I know, it's possible we have higher standards. I know different municipalities, different counties they have to meet or not, and different levels of lead. But to me, that doesn't amount to $4+ million in change. So, what is or can your department do to assess these costs and try to get those down? Talk to these counties, these other cities. What are y'all doing to be able to build a similar or better fire station for $4+ million cheaper?
So there's a couple of things that we try to do to see what the alignment is, and based upon that, one of the things that we within the JOC program, where we use a pricing structure that was actually customized for the city of Atlanta, and what that does is that's taking the terms from RS Means, which is an estimating document that it goes through it, and it provides the local level construction costs for that particular area. And the customization for the city of Atlanta is that we actually take the standards that the city has, which is, it's not the lowest, but it's also not the highest. And so, but in comparison, when you look at, so we've done on a couple of facilities where we break out and just do the straight construction costs, our numbers are actually right in the middle. We also included in our numbers, we also have our design costs that's associated with that. And though there's a few other pieces that goes into that conversation. So, and to your point, I know that having a different program and not knowing what the other departments are, but just some of the things that we do have that's in addition to us, like I mentioned earlier about the EV chargers that we have within the facility. Part of our requirement with the city of Atlanta is that 20% of our parking spaces within the new facility has to be EV chargers. And so, and then, so it's things like that. Like I said, again, the lead is just part of that, the art program and stuff like that. So all of these are different programs, and our projects are, when we say turnkey, so those numbers that you see when the projects are complete, they are equipped with the WestNet, which is the on-call system that the fire department must have. If they're not saying it, the other ones don't, but I just said, so these are things, and so the AIM support the equipment that goes into the kitchen. So when we turn over, for example, 36, if I give the fire department the key on Wednesday, on Thursday, they can go in the facility and operate. So the facility is 100% turnkey, so there's no additional cost once they move in. And we do that because we've experienced times when we've turned over a facility or when facilities have been turned over to the fire department, and in one case, I know that they didn't have furniture to go into the building. In some cases, they didn't have the right support structure so that they can move in, and so they had to do these additional costs. So we take the approach to whereas we want to make sure that everything that's associated with that cost is included within our budget, so that when they day one, that they can move into the facility and start operating from that point. So, but we continue to try to look at the numbers, and we do that on a regular basis. The change orders that we may have to our facilities, we outside of 22, we have not gone back and asked for an increase within any of our projects. So the cost that we have associated with that, and in most cases, we have funding at the end of the project to bring back into the budget. But I'll be more than willing to sit down, like I said, again, as you and I talk, just really to kind of look. And so, and if there are some things that you see that, again, we're open to that. We're not, but we are very, very conscious of those particular costs.
And then just sticking with fire stations, you could use any department's facilities probably as an example. Stay on subject. Probably the most issue that I've experienced is just what's been mentioned before with needed increase in staff, support staff. Gotten calls where, we had this toilet stopped up for months, our HVAC's down, and the heat of the summer. Had 2 HVAC. How this current fiscal year versus what's in this FY25 budget, how are we balancing handling stuff like that, these maintenance calls in-house versus using contracted service?
Well, you touched on both bases there. So right now we do have service contracts in place just for that reason, because we do need to be able to respond to those calls. By adding the additional staff in there, that allows us the ability to be able to go out and do the type of inspections and the maintenance services that we think will help to be able to minimize some of that. But right now it's the combination between the two. So as we ramp up to get more staffing in there to address some of these issues, the service contracts that we have right now is how we are handling those things.
And one of those newer service contracts is the landscaping maintenance that y'all have taken, fire stations. How often does that occur, and how has the performance been on those?
So, Billy, so that's something that we just got started, and actually it's with the Department of Watershed, is where we were added to their contract. And so there are some components right now that we're looking at trying to build what that PM is going to be up on it. So, Billy, you want to kind of explain?
So the landscape contract currently is every 2 weeks for each fire station. So I think it currently just started back. We're in the grow season now. So they should be hitting all the stations.
And given this is a new contract and some of these stations are in pretty bad shape, is this just, they're starting off, y'all just show up and cut the grass, or do we have a plan for each station to kind of bring them into what our fire stations in the city of Atlanta should be looking like?
I think it's going to be a combination of both of this. So this contract here is to go through and do the cutting up on it. But to your point, there's some of that where we have an overgrowth. We're going to have to go in and do some specific things to those locations. And that's one of the things that his team will be going out, working with the contractor to come up with what those plans look like.
And lastly, what all does the security contract cover?
Oh, the security contract?
$1.9 million increase.
It covers the guards under Deems purview, from City Hall, 185 Dunbar, contract security guard services.
And this is a new contract y'all have, or this someone would say?
It's an existing contract. It initially was under Deems purview last year, then it went to the mayor's office of preparedness, and now it's back under Deems purview.
That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Before I recognize Ms. Norwood, I've been asked by Channel 26 to ask the presenters here to pull the mics a little closer and to speak directly into them when you're speaking. Thank you, Ms. Norwood.
Yes, I was a little late. So on Station 26, I would like to see the final drawings before we start and see how it's going to be trimmed out. Each station in each part of town probably has a little different feel, certainly the stations that I've seen all over the city. So I want to make sure that what we are doing on Howell Mill at Moore's Mill is compatible with what is out there. I'm not talking about what we have is a old ranch building, brick building. So I know that whenever I talked with y'all a year and a half ago, whatever, and fire, I just want to see it now as we're really getting ready. And I saw that there's a tree removal sign posted on the property. And I need to see what trees we're talking about. You know what this is going to do, because this is extraordinarily important. As you know, we've had several things going on around that station, including the possibility, which we stifled and stymied, to do a roundabout over 75 on Moore's Mill, and that GDOT was considering, and we said absolutely not. Our fire guys have got to be able to cross over I-75 very quickly, because you've got an awful lot of residents and businesses that are in, quote, their area, that are across that expressway. And we've also had issues about increased volume of traffic with a possible development, and we've just been very thoughtful about making sure that those guys can get to the places with our horrific congestion that we have all over Buckhead. And that's just such a major artery. So I want to see the drawings and see exactly what it's going to look like. So if y'all could schedule that with me next week, I would be great.
Sure, yeah, that wouldn't be a problem. We can definitely set some time and come by and take you through what's going on. So, yeah, we'd be more than happy to do that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anyone else with questions or comments? Ms. Boone, and then Council President Shipman.
Oh, I will be brief, but I want to publicly thank your staff, your team, for being very responsive, even at the last-minute challenges that the council members may present as far as we're doing our community outreach efforts. Ms. Colbert especially answers the call, even on weekends when we have issues. So I want to publicly thank her, Mr. Oliver, and that entire team for what they do. And I do have one request, that we move towards trying to have double events here as we used to. I would like to see the old council chambers used simultaneously with the City Hall atrium. So I would like to see us purchase enough tables and chairs so that we can go back to using both spaces simultaneously. Again, thank you so much. I know you all have gone through a little transition, but we are very pleased with your performance.
Thank you.
Shipman.
Thank you all. I wanted to talk just a little bit about sustainability efforts. There are a few different points made in the presentation, then I also know that there are some capital projects. Could you just talk a little bit about some of the sustainability initiatives for the upcoming fiscal?
So for us, we've been working with Sustainability Office for a while on the solar systems. And so we look into a lot of our new facilities and existing facilities where we're working with one of the local contractors as well with Georgia Power up on adding the solar panels to the facilities. And so our relationship with them is going through evaluating and walking through with them to see what facilities that actually may be more feasible for that to be able to add the number of panels that we can to max out the services. And then once we go through reviews, we also coordinate with them how they penetrate the facility so that they're not voiding warranties and things on that line. So we've been very supportive in that piece, and we continue to work that effort with them.
Do we have any specific properties that we think in FY25 are going to be newly installed?
Yeah, so we have, so there's a list of facilities that we actually have, and I can share that with you, but there's a number of facilities that we've already targeted that we will be using for that.
Great. There's also a note in the presentation around EV charger installation. Can you talk a little bit about that initiative?
So, so currently, as I shared before, this year we've actually started to implement the program where we actually installing the chargers. In the past, we were just pretty much doing the infrastructure. So we've been working with Georgia Power. They have a program that they call Make Ready, where they'll actually pay for the infrastructure. And what I found out working with them is that they also have in a little small writing that they expect you to put the chargers on there within a certain amount of days. So, but we've started to implement the chargers as well. So we just finished EMS 37, and so we actually have the new chargers there. 36 will be going in shortly to starting that program as well. And we're actually looking at doing over at the Government Center parking deck, we're going to be adding additional 20 chargers facilities over there also. And so we've been working with the sustainability team in different departments, and so we've created a list of where we know where all of the chargers are located. Working with Georgia Power to go out and do an assessment, because ideally when we get done with the program, we'll be able to have a system that we can pull up and show all of the locations. We'll be able to show the usability of the system and be able to work from that perspective. So we're still in the initial phases upon certain components of it, and what the ultimate outlook is going to be once we get done with them.
And that raises my next question, which is how do we ensure that those are as operable as possible? Obviously, one of the downfalls of chargers is you pull up and it's not working. So talk a little bit about how we think about maintenance and viability.
And so that's part of the assessment that we haven't done, because once we identify and know where the locations are, we're working with Georgia Power, particularly right now, and there'll be some other opportunities, but to establish a program to where we can actually see what this maintenance look like. And so within this service program that we'll have, there will be a monitoring system to let us know if a charger is not working. And so we would get an alert up on that, and that'll help us to be able to go out and maintain the system.
How are we doing it now, given that we don't have that system?
So right now, it's just based upon a call. So
it's just
somebody calls.
reactive. Somebody's got to call and say,
exactly.
charger's not working, and
Correct.
somebody goes out and fixes it. And just roughly, how many installed EV chargers are under your purview right now, give or take?
I don't. So I would say somewhere. I want to say somewhere around 25, 30 right now. That may be in my purview.
Got it. Okay. Any other initiatives around sustainability to touch on before I move on?
I mean, so from a sustainability standpoint, we continue with, a lot of the facilities and things that we're doing right now, like our EBI piece, is part of sustainability for energy conservation. So what the EBI does is it's the front end of our BAS system. So we're building a building automation system that we can actually be able to see what's going on with all of our facilities, the HVC components, so that we maximize and operating at a more efficiency rate. So that's one of the pieces but it's in the development stage, but we are actually adding more points as we go.
Got it. So one topic that came up yesterday in the overview, and I'm going to be asking this question of several of the departments. In the second quarter updates that finance made to projections, enterprise management had a projected end of 2024 expense level of just over $20 million. So you've already been making investments. We talked about yesterday that some of the hiring that that you've been able to do, you've gone ahead and filled those positions, which is great. My question is, if I look at the proposed budget, which is just under 20 million, 19.9, in essence, it means that the proposed budget is just basically flat to where you're actually running right now. My question is that realistic to expect that you're going to be flat year over year from the run rate you are right now, or is that a bit too conservative?
So we don't expect to necessarily run flat. We're just trying to address the current pieces and then kind of build upon that. So the goal here is working with finance is to be able to get to those levels, and once we kind of reach those pieces, to show where we continue to have that added value and hopefully get the increase to kind of support that moving forward.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I do have a question. Could you give me a status report on the proposed new EMS station in the Armour Yard area?
Yes, so we've been in communication actually this past 2 weeks with MARTA, and so there's some property that has been identified that we actually have been able to place the EMS and actually 29, if we go that route, up on the property. So we're working with them now to go over some of the requirements that MARTA may have, because it is there's a rail that goes up under that particular location. And so we get the details to see what those requirements may be. Right now, based upon what we hear and some of the preliminary stuff, is that from a design perspective, we can actually overcome some of those pieces. But there's some additional survey and some engineering conversation that we're having right now with their engineers to see what they look like.
All right, maybe I misinterpreted what Marta told me. I was kind of under the impression, or maybe just hoping to hear, that things were a little bit farther along than they are. This has been a pretty long gestation period. But what do you foresee in terms of the schedule of getting this across the finish line?
So if this location works out with them, we actually have a building that's designed to the point to where we know where we are, and so it'll be one of the existing stations that we're building now, and so that'll put us at least 50% further on the design phase, which at that particular point is a lot closer to getting toward the permitting process and do what we need to do. So we'll do a site adapt, which is takes a lot less time than going through and designing the whole facility to go there. So those are the pieces just once we kind of understand what limitation or restrictions that we have on the site, which means that we're probably 50% further down the road than we would be if we were starting from scratch.
All right. And so for updates on this, would I be talking to you or someone in fire?
So let's have the communication, because I'm keeping fire kind of in the same way, so we can continue to have that conversation. I can schedule some regular meetings with you to kind of give you an update upon them.
All right, anyone else with any questions or comments? All right, Dean, thank you.
Thank you.
I do not see corrections, so I think we've earned ourselves about a 15-minute break.
Appreciate it.
So we'll reconvene at 11 with corrections.